Good evening and a very warm welcome to First Issues. Parenting is a great responsibility. The time and resources needed to raise the child is a challenge for hundreds of thousands across the country. To help us balance these sometimes conflicting roles is parenting consultant as well as contributing author to the successful Chicken Soup for the Soul book series, as well as writer of original titles Conquering the Giants and Dive In, Ashley Thaba. How do you express the importance or make people realize how important it is to make time to parent?
Well, you know, I have my Facebook page, Mom to Mom Parenting Consultations. And so I try to really encourage parents there with various specific stories, practical stories, and also statistics. I mean, like you mentioned at the beginning, you said it's a very foundational part of our society. I mean, not even from a religious standpoint, just from a psychological, sociological standpoint, it's very clear that families have a part to play in the way that we raise up our young people. And so if we understand how important that is, then we have to understand that just as equally important as the job, probably more important as the job you do from 8 to 5, is the job you do in raising this human to whether it be somebody who's going to take away from the society or add to the society. And so I think people just have to really understand that you have this like 18 years to really decide what kind of future you're going to leave the world with when your little person raises up and becomes whoever they become.
Is it just about making time to spend time with children, or does it involve more than that?
Definitely it's more than just sharing oxygen in the room with the child. It's really being understanding. Okay, so for my family, what we do, my husband and I actually sat down and we actually thought about what are some things that we want to see, practical things we'd like to see in our children. So for example, like leadership, we want to see our children being able to lead. I don't want them, they don't necessarily have to be, my kids are all very different. So like my youngest is the most confident, so she's probably going to be the more outgoing. My daughter is a bit more shy, so she's probably not going to be your person on stage kind of thing.
What are some of the signs that parents should look out for that indicate that maybe they aren't being as hands-on as they should be?
Well, I mean, you know, as a parent, I think inside you, if you're not spending as much time as you should. I mean, there's weeks that even I'm not saying that I'm like the gold standard or something like that by any means, but there's weeks where I'm just very aware, like I have not spent much time with my kids this week, you know? And so I think just listening to that voice, the kids will usually, kids will act out in two ways. Either they'll, well, if they're used to seeing you, then they're gonna be very verbal with that. You know, they're gonna say, Mom, we haven't seen you all week. Can you spend some time with us? If you've got a relationship that they can do that, you know. Now, if you've never spent time with your kids, then your kids, sometimes to get attention, will act out in a really bad way because they don't think that you're gonna give them positive attention. So they'll end up being disrespectful or
any attention.
As long as you look my
way.
Just look my way. And so sometimes that actually pushes parents farther away because they think, oh my gosh, this kid is giving me a headache. You know, this kid is naughty. That's something a lot of people say here. And really the kid is just like, I just want you to look my way, you know. So I think just being very conscious of how often you are spending that time. And again, it's not sharing oxygen. It's looking the child in the eye, talking to them. How is your day? What do you want to do with me today? I've got 30 minutes I want to spend just with you. What do you want to do in that 30 minutes? So that's another thing that I think a lot of parents need to just be more intentional about, making that time count, not just saying, well, I was home last night, but you were on your phone and the child was watching TV. That's what I would call sharing oxygen in the same space.
The culture aspect. You say you have a blog in which you advise parents and mothers as to how to maybe do things a little bit better. Yeah. Does the culture question ever come up? Or traditionally, as Botswana, there are some old beliefs such as kids, or even in the West, kids are meant to be seen and not heard, and that kind of thing.
Well, I definitely think that was very present in the past. I think now most parents are seeing that they were raised in such a way that they would have liked to spend more time with their parents. And even like, for example, Percy's parents, I mean, they are really hands-on and, you know, like reading with my kids, but Percy says they didn't necessarily do that with him. You know, like he said his father helps cook the meals now and helps read books with my children. And he's like, I don't really remember sitting in my dad's lap and reading books growing up. So I think even some of the older generation is starting to realize there's some value in that. So I don't
They also have the time, I think, now
that they're older,
and the appreciation. And grandparents will always treat their grandchildren very differently from
no, they're great. They're really, you know, they really put an effort into. So I think, but to answer your question about how do you convince, what I was saying was I think that in today's day and age, there's enough education now and enough kids have been raised without that attention that they want to do things differently. And so I don't seem to, I do a lot of parenting consultations and a lot of speaking on parenting. And that doesn't seem to be something I have to convince. Most people realize they need to spend time with their kids. It's just a question of what do you do and how do you find the time. That's more the issue, not should we spend time, but rather I'm busy, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I don't even know what to do. I mean, I'm 40 and my kid is 6. We have nothing in common. What am I going to do with this kid? Especially the men tend to wonder, how do I even interact with my kid? I don't know what that looks like.